Tech Talk with Matthew Dickerson. Matthew Dickerson. Tech Talk. Sit back and relax. It's time to talk technology.
Greetings, tinkerers and problem solvers. It's time to tuck that pencil behind your ear and pop that set square back into your bib pocket. It's time for some Tech Talk with Matthew Dickerson. Now, in today's show, we're putting to bed some of those arguments over who said what and transcribing all the conversations, courtesy of a simple and discreet little bracelet. And we'll take a look at a game of ping-pong that may never end. And waste not, want not, we're using food scraps to make household items. And here, with a bag full of details slung over his back, is the all-seeing, all-knowing tech guru himself. Welcome to the microphone, Matthew Dickerson.
Good morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are in the world. I've got a first world problem I've got to talk about this week, and it is when I go...
We're full of first world problems.
Yeah, we probably are, actually. It's when I go to park run. Now, I drive, I'm only a couple of kilometres away from my local park run. I drive there, which is, I feel a bit guilty about. Maybe I should walk there, but I need to be ready to run. But what do I do with my device that I would normally get into my car with? Now, I've got a couple of different cars. One's a Hyundai EV, which has got an old-fashioned key. Now, I don't want to run with that key. A, I don't have great pockets in my running shorts. B, but that's extra weight, James. I don't want that extra weight.
Exactly, and this is the same dilemma I face. Park run's an issue.
Yeah, it is. So for every kilogram less we're carrying, that's about 4 seconds per kilometre faster I can run. I don't want that 20-gram key in my pocket.
Exactly.
But I also, as I say, don't have somewhere convenient
You
to
could
carry
always
that.
leave the key or phone or whatever in the car.
Well, that'd be a problem, wouldn't it?
It does make your vehicle a little bit more open to...
Park runners are very honest people.
we're
It's the people that
all
might be walking past that might be the problem. Those non-park runners.
Vagrants.
That's right. So I don't love taking that car. Now, normally I'd take my wife's car, which is the Tesla, because I can use my phone, but I don't want to run with a phone at park run either because the phone's a bit clumsy.
Oh, it is, and I run with my phone every time as well, and it's just, you're just aware of it.
Yeah, that's right.
That's also annoying.
And I did run, and I apologise to this person, hopefully he's not listening. When I ran in the city to surf a couple of years ago, I did run along past someone who was running with their phone in their hand, and I bumped the phone in their hand, and it fell on the ground. And I stopped and said, "Oh, sorry," and he picked it up. I said, "Hope it's okay," but what could I do then?
That's right. Just keep running, but you've got to run faster now.
That's right.
You've got to leave
He's
that
gonna
person
chase me.
behind.
That's right. So that is a bit of an issue. You can drop it, but it feels so clumsy carrying it. So I don't want to take my phone. You've got the little tiny plastic key that you can take, the valet key for a Tesla, for example, and you might be able to find a pocket there then too. But now with a Tesla, you can get in with your watch, which is very cool. So now all those first world problems have gone away. I steal my wife's car, use my watch to get in the car, start the car, etc. And I'm going to have my watch on because I need to record my time, of course, even though the park run time is there. It's my official time is my watch time, of course.
Yeah, that's right.
But I noticed there are many manufacturers out there looking at different solutions now. So I did see one the other day that said you can now put your car key into your Apple Wallet. So you can then use your Apple Wallet.
Right.
And I know the Tesla just uses the fact that your phone is near your car to be able to get in, very near to your car to get in. It doesn't actually put it in your wallet per se, but you've then got the ability to put it in your wallet. I know BMW a few years ago came out with a partnership. It was announced at an Apple launch where they were saying we're going to do a partnership where you'll use your phone to get into your BMW. And I can't remember whether it was using a wallet or what it was using, but it's fascinating now. The old days, we thought it was pretty cool when you had a key that you could leave in your pocket when you got in your car compared to the old days of putting the key in the door and turning the key in the door to unlock the key. And you could lock your keys in the car in those days. I just don't know how you would lock your keys in your car now. NRMA still get call-outs for it, but I don't know how you would actually lock your key in your car. So that was cool when we could take away from putting the key in the door and we pressed a button on our key. But then you still put it in the ignition. And then we got away from the ignition and have a start button. Now, and it does throw you, I've had this happen, my Tesla, there's no start button. I get in the car with my watch on and I drive away. But my Hyundai has still got a start button. I've gotten out of my Hyundai sometimes and gone to walk away and go, why are all the lights on inside the car? Oh, I didn't press the turn off button, did I? Because you get used to not turning the turn off button.
And this is the thing. If you've got multiple different cars with multiple different modes of getting out or in, then it's really confusing. And we got a similar thing. We got one with a key that goes into the ignition and you've got to turn it and you've got, we can press the button to lock it. But we've got another one which has just got the fob and the start button as well. and then we've got a Tesla. So we've got these different levels. And I got out of my Kia with just the start button and started walking to Bunnings. And I went to lock it. And it bipped at me. Why are you bipping at? Well, the engine was still running.
Anyway, it is fascinating how we're getting better and better at getting into cars. The old security thing, which doesn't really apply to cars, but from an IT perspective, you have three things. You either know something, be someone, or have something.
Yeah,
so
that's right.
You might have a fingerprint, so you be someone, fingerprint or an eye, for example. Know something might be a password, or have something might be some type of fob. Cars, we just kind of seem to think if you got one of those three, that should be good enough for you.
Yeah.
We haven't really got to the fingerprint. There was a car that came out years ago in America, a Ford, I think it was, that you could do a fingerprint in the door, but it was a bit of a flop.
Yeah.
But at the moment, we've just stuck with have something that's good enough, and only one of those three. Typically in security and IT, you want two of those three things to be able to get access to some information.
Still, there's a couple of times where I've had someone else drive my car for me, and I haven't been necessarily present for the car, so I needed them to go and grab the car. That would have been a real issue if we get too secure.
That's right. If you start at
hand
stage, take my finger. No, I'm not sure if I want you to do that. So anyway, it's fascinating where we're going with car and
Exactly.
entries.
All right, we better get started with today's stories. We're going to kick off today with a story aimed at soccer goalkeepers. Now, it's a tough life being a soccer goalie. No one's measuring how many times the ball gets past any of the other 10 players on the field, and their mistakes certainly are quickly forgotten. Well, penalties in the box are just cruel. Even the best goalies have little hope against a really precise strike. So, Matt, any little bit of advantage might be worth $1 million to a goalie. What can AI bring to the table?
It'd be worth a lot, wouldn't it, if you could say definitely which way it was going to go. And it's funny, I still remember in primary school, Monday after the weekend, there would be someone from each of the sports we'd play over the weekend who would stand up at assembly and say to the entire primary school how their team went on the weekend. And I didn't play soccer. I played rugby league growing up. But I remember the soccer captain got up and said, we lost 5-0. The goalie let in 5 goals.
Oh, wow.
And the school principal said, after that particular one, said...
And they'd make him stand up in the assembly and all point at him.
Almost. But the principal went the other way and said, I just want to remind everyone that there are 11 players on a soccer team. Yeah. They had to get past 10 players before they got to the goalie, so maybe it's not all the goalie's fault. So.
But goalies have to be enormously resilient.
They do, because you probably don't remember the saves, you remember the score. And the score doesn't show 15 saves, 1 goal let in. The score shows 1 goal let in. So
yeah, that's right. Now, I used to be a goalie. I used to play representative soccer as a youngster, and I had to learn resilience. It used to really wound me when a goal went through, but I learned how to toughen up that way. Yeah.
So there's a few things I want to talk about in this one, and it comes down to tech in sport. And if I go back to Don Bradman, so Don Bradman, in my opinion, I'm happy to hear different theories on this, would be, I think, without a doubt, the greatest sports person of any sport to have ever lived in recorded history. And I say that based on just how far above he was in all of his stats compared to his contemporaries. A batting average of 99.94 when the benchmark is 50. And even in the era when Don played, there were uncovered pitches, so pitches weren't as good. Yeah. It really seemed like there wasn't the same protection of a player. Helmets were a foreign idea. Exactly. So for him to...
and he bat through the Bodyline series.
Bodyline series, that's right.
The tactics changed and everything. Yeah, that's all.
So I still feel like, you have people who are outstanding in their sports, and when you look at their stats compared to their contemporaries of any era, they're 5% above the best, 2% above the best. And so you go, wow, they were the best in their sport, but Don was so far above. So there are many players today who say if Don played today with all of the modern analysis tools, the ultra slow motion cameras, the AI scrutiny of players, we would have Don averaging maybe in the 60s. Fair enough, he was still a great player, but we would have worked him out. And the counter-argument to that, of course, is that Don would have had access to all of those tools as well. So he could have analysed the bowlers and looked at what they do with their pace, how they change, what they do under pressure. So as much as they might have analysed the Don, then the Don would have analysed all the other players. But it's just a reality in sport now. I know when I've been to test matches of cricket, you watch the coaches and the players area, and there'll be several coaches. Ones that I know, I normally know the main coach. There are other players there, the part of the coaching panel. They're all on their computers, analysing things, talking to the players. So analysis is an incredibly important part of it. So getting to soccer. Now, it's a pretty tough gig. You play 90 minutes of soccer. At the end of that, it might be 0-0 or 1-1. So the penalty shootout. Now, the penalty shootout to me, and I haven't grown up as a soccer fan. I'm not a dyed-in-the-wool soccer player or analyst. My kids played a bit of soccer, but that was about it. And I just think it seems like an incredibly unfair way to decide a game.
It's cruel on the striker, it's cruel on the goalie, it's cruel on the spectators.
Yeah, that's right. So much pressure. I would almost argue it's too much pressure for both because the goal is expected to save every goal. Let's say there's 5 shots at the end of the match. Really, you should save all 5.
Well,
sorry, you should miss all 5. No,
miss all 5. I was just going to say that's
shooters.
a bit harsh.
That's right. The shooters should get all 5.
Pressure's on the striker.
That's right. So you manage to save one of those, and sometimes it is a bit of luck that you save one of those.
Yep, that's
so
right.
you manage to save one of those. The poor old shooter is crestfallen because he's missed one when he's expected to get every single one of those.
There's an awesome story from John Aloisi who got us into our first World Cup in like 30 years. Back, I think it was the 2006 World Cup. And it came down to the penalty shootout, and he was the 5th striker. And as he marched up, he had to score his goal for us to get through, and he was smiling. And people said, were you nervous? He said, no, I knew I was scoring it because he had practiced this kick 1,000 times, and he always kicked it to the same spot.
Yep.
And he knew that if he hit it properly, then there was no way that the goalie was going to save it.
And
so that's what this is about, isn't it? It's
that's
about
right.
being able to guess where they are and whether or not that gives you an upper hand.
Let's make it not a guess, though. Let's make it a bit more analytical than that. So the penalty spot's 11 metres from the goal line.
Yeah.
Strikers at professional level, maybe 130 kilometres per hour that they strike the ball at. So that's about a third of a second to travel from the spot to the goal line. So humans can't react and move in that time frame. So as you would know, especially your experience as a goalkeeper, the goalie says, I know this. I know Matthew Dickinson. He goes to the right more often than not. I'm going to go to the right and I'm just going to dive and hope. So the goalie is anticipating. Now, you've seen goalies in professional matches where they go and have a drink in between shooters and have a look on their drink bottle because they've got written down there which way the shooter next up is likely to shoot. But sometimes the goalie looks at the shooters they're running in and they go, ooh, I reckon this is the way they're going to go. So professionals watching which way they go get it right about 46% of the time. Now, there are 3 options really, left, right and straight. And I think if I was shooting, I'd go, well, he's going to dive one with the other. I'm just going to go straight. But obviously
that doesn't work
do that
a lot of the time.
That's right.
Yeah.
So there's the 3 options, but more often than not, you're going left or right is obviously the shooter. So 46%, that's not too bad. That's better than 33%, which is what just a random sampling would give you. So they gave the problem to AI and they trained AI on over 1,000 penalty kicks. They chose the Spanish Soccer League for whatever reason, so professional level league, 1,000 soccer kicks.
Wow.
You watch those shooters without knowing anything, without knowing that Matthew Dickinson always goes right. Just watch as each shooter comes up to shoot, and then you predict before they kick the ball which way it's going to go and see what you can do. AI got to the stage where it was 64%. And there were such subtle things that humans not only wouldn't pick them up, but wouldn't react fast enough. So sometimes it was just a slight change of their hip, sometimes a slight change of where they would plant, if they're a right-footed kicker, where they would plant their left foot, just subtle differences there. And even though these professional shooters were trained not to give anything away, not to look, oh, I'm looking at the left side of the net, that's where I'm going to be shooting, they were giving away some tells, like a poker tell, if you like. So they were giving away something in their setup that gave AI an inkling that, when they do this, this is likely to be the outcome.
Wow.
So 64%, not perfect still, but better in something that is a second, maybe a couple of seconds at most is how long that shooter takes to go from standing there to kicking the ball, and yet AI was good enough to get that. So where do we go next? Do we get to the stage where suddenly we have some cameras sitting behind the goal and they're focused on the next person coming up to shoot, and then they very quickly tell the goalkeeper, or the goalkeeper wears some electric pads on his
with
thighs.
little speakers in them with a report coming through.
The speakers might be obvious, but if he had some pads on his thighs that just gave electric shock left or right, so I don't know. I mean, obviously we don't want to have people cheating, but in sport we analyse things to the nth degree, to the point where is it cheating or is it just getting to the stage where you're using every tool available?
Always trying to get the upper hand.
Yeah, that's right. Everyone's trying to get the upper hand. So whether it's Don Bradman analysing players, whether it's Don Bradman using a stump and hitting a golf ball against a water tank, as he famously did growing up to hone his skills, you're trying to get every possible advantage you can, and this is just another one. So now I think what they'll do is, with that AI tool, they'll then start to say, these players here, this is what they do, this is how you look at what they're doing. So the next game you're playing, you've got some analysis of those players. So as a goalkeeper, you might go, right, I'm going to watch it as he runs in. You've got enough time as they're running in to still go left or right. Once they kick it, you haven't got enough time to do anything. So the analysis of sport, quite incredible, and quite incredible how far we're going.
It's amazing, isn't it? Well, they still can't pick up your dirty laundry off the floor, but robots are playing table tennis with skill and winning. Google DeepMind robots are dominating the ping pong table, so much so that they've given up on humans now and they've started playing each other. Matt, we have arrived. This is the end of humanity, particularly if we're waiting for them to finish their rally.
It does go literally forever. They set the robots up, and what they did initially, they said, I want you to just learn from each other and just have a rally where you're not trying to win, where you're just hitting it back and forth. And so they did that, and that went for as long as they wanted to keep powering the robots. It was a robotic
It's
arm.
amazing they got robot playing table,
right.
ping pong playing robots.
Well, and they do that deliberately because it's a fairly small scale area. You can set it up with not a humanoid robot required. It can just be an arm on some type of gantry or some type of mobile device that can go back and forth across
I actually watched this the other night.
But it's fascinating, isn't it? And,
it is.
But there's still, with ping pong, there's still coordination, prediction of where it's going to go, and there's spin on the ball as well. So it's not just a straight trajectory that you can say, I know, I understand physics, I understand gravity, I know that ball is going to follow this trajectory. But hold on, if you put some spin on it, it doesn't follow that trajectory.
Exactly.
So now I've got to account for
But
that.
then you have to construct your return shot to do a similar sort of trick as well.
Yeah, that's
so
right.
There's a lot of, well, I mean, we know robots move fast and that their thinking is quite fast, but to put it all together,
that's right.
And it's complicated.
This is all about the thinking,
It's got to
isn't
be
it?
human, surely.
That's right. When you think about it, though, we've talked about with driving, we're very clever being able to drive a car, but ping pong as well, it's only a small scale environment, but there's a lot going on for you as a player to stand there. And I'm not talking about Olympic level, professional level. I'm talking about you and I just having a hit where we stand up at the table and just hit it back and forth to each other. There's a lot going on with our coordination and our prediction of that trajectory, and basically being able to hit the ball back is quite clever for us. But robots, so they do it forever. So they keep going forever. Then they said, now you've had a fun rally. You've warmed up a bit like they do in a tennis match before a proper tennis match. A bit of a warm up, just hit it back and forth to each other. Now we want you to be competitive. Now we want you to start trying to win points off your fellow robot. And it could do that. It could start getting to the stage where it was beating their fellow robot.
Right.
And they actually found some of the training was better when they had a human on the other side. So they'd say, right, robot A, you go over there and play against James, robot B, go and play against Matthew. And they learnt skills quicker watching what was happening on the other side with a human, and then said, right, I'm going to take those skills back now and play against another robot, and they were using these increased skills. So even then when they started getting to the stage where they're saying trying to win, the game still went forever because they'd learnt the tricks of each other, learnt the tricks of humans, and then they're applying those tricks as they played the game. Yeah, right. So quite fascinating. Now, how good are they against humans? Well, when they then played against human opponents of an intermediate level, so again, not professional, they were winning about 55% of the time. When they played against skills of all levels, so some basic beginners and some professional level, they won 45% of the time. So the professionals were still better than them, and even intermediate, winning only 55%. That's okay, but
still,
I'd be pretty proud of myself being a robot. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, for sure.
But the whole idea here is to see how we can get robots to learn, because as you said, the ultimate aim, picking up clothes off the floor to put in the washing machine for me. And can they learn off watching me do that? Well, I don't do it much, so probably not very well off me, but can they learn off someone doing that? That's exactly where we're headed with this. And fascinating enough, so I've talked before about Moravec's paradox, which is tasks that are easy for humans are hard for robots and vice versa. So one of the tests for Moravec's paradox is tying a shoelace. Now, we all teach our kids to tie shoelaces before they go to school, although Velcro came along and wrecked that, didn't it? But shoelaces, you want to be able to tie shoelaces, because if you go to school and your shoelace comes undone, you don't want to go to the teacher and go, can you tie this, please?
No, you need your own personal robot.
Yeah, well, that. So robots, until very recently, couldn't tie a shoelace. Robots can do incredible things. They can be strong, they can be powerful, they can be fast. But tying a shoelace...
That's complicated.
It is. Playing ping pong, they're both complicated. So teaching it to play ping pong, teaching it to learn to play ping pong, watching other humans, a bit the same as tying a shoelace, watch what I do and then see how you go. They don't even talk about double knots, but just talk about a single, a single knot shoelace.
Yeah, one thing at a time, please.
That's right.
I'm just wondering, if two robots play each other in table tennis, one beats the other, does the loser throw his paddle down and then storm back inside the house and go and watch cartoons?
Just is that what happens with you?
That's what happened back when I used to play table tennis.
Right. And that was your brother, was it, that used to storm inside?
Yeah, that's right. You throw a paddle at them and then walk away.
Well, playing table tennis has actually been a bit of a benchmark, a bit like the tying of shoelaces, a bit of a benchmark in robotics to say if we can get robots to play table tennis. Now, at the moment, they're not humanoid robots. That's the challenge, I think, getting a humanoid robot to then get to the stage where they can balance, move, stand, and still have the coordination to play a game of table tennis. That's pretty cool. So we're getting there, and it seems a bit trivial. Oh, playing table tennis, big deal. But this is all part of that whole learning process for robots. Yeah.
Now, as an endurance record, the marathon flight of 11 days straight over 13,500 kilometres is a fair sort of an effort. That's non-stop, mind you, from Alaska to Tasmania. And well done to our plucky little feathered friend, the bar-tailed godwit, for such a special effort. And the challenge has been accepted by the folks at Skydweller Aero. That's a US-Spanish aerospace firm. Matt, they've been dabbling heavily in solar-powered flight to try and top all endurance records.
Yeah, and it is fascinating. We often talk about solar panels on cars. Why don't you have solar panels on cars? Not enough surface area. It's not going to do much. So you think the amount of power you need to fly a plane, well, not enough surface area for that because it needs more power than a car to drive around. But, of course, you've got the ability with a plane to add surface area by wingspan. Now, I'm going to introduce a couple of new SI units here today. We've
How many giraffes? Yeah, okay.
The Skydweller drone, they're calling it. So it's a normal fixed wing type aircraft, not a drone with multiple propellers, not as in quadcopter type drone. It's a fixed wing type drone. A wingspan of 72 metres, which is wider than a Boeing 747, which apparently is the new measurement of wingspan.
Yeah, okay.
Just for those interested, a 747-400 has a wingspan of 64.4, so they're correct. Wider than that. And the weight of this is 2,500 kilograms, or I would normally say 2.5 tonnes, which is similar to a Ford F-150 Ute, which is again that other SI unit. That's right.
So hang on. So are we talking about the opportunity to maybe stick solar panels on a Boeing 747 as well? Sorry, we'll get to that another time.
That's right. So they've built a plane, fairly light, 2.5 tonnes, seems like a fairly light plane to me, and they've put a massive wing on it, and that gives you two advantages. First of all, it can fly at lower speeds because you've got more surface area to lift.
Oh, of course, yeah.
So it makes sense. But the second part, and the real advantage here, is that you've then got a whole bunch of wing surface area to put solar panels on so that you can keep getting that power to keep flying it. Now, it's a bit hard to fly during the night time if you're relying on solar, so you've got to have some battery power on there as well. Right, yeah. The nice part is you're getting above the clouds. So this typically flies about 13 kilometres above the Earth. So it's enough height there. Now, I imagine what they would do is they would probably use some of that height overnight so that they're not using as much power, so you might drop it down during the night time, and then when the sun comes back up the next day, you might start climbing again because you've got extra power available to you.
But does flying higher use less power because there's less wind resistance?
Yeah, well, that's another reason you'd fly at that height. Yeah. So for us, and the main reason I'd use this is for surveillance, but other reasons you might use it, which I'll touch on in a moment. But from a surveillance perspective, we've got satellites up there. But the satellite's low Earth orbit is typically 400, maybe 500 kilometres above the Earth. 13 kilometres above the Earth means you're going to get much better imagery. Yeah. I mean, cameras in satellites now are very accurate. We don't unfortunately, or fortunately maybe, don't have the enhance image button that they do in the movies, where they have a satellite image and there's a blurry image of your house and you sunbaking at the back, and they go enhance image and there's the perfect image of you sunbaking nude at the back of your house. So,
Got to stop sunbaking nude, by the way. Right. I'm going to do it one day.
Well, especially now, because now at 13 kilometres above the Earth, they'll get very accurate photos of you out in your backyard.
So the message is, if you're going to be sunbaking nude, just look up, smile and wave.
That's right.
Yeah?
And make sure it's not cold weather. So 13 kilometres above the Earth, it flies along. At the moment, their testing they've done has been up to 3 days flying. So they put it up there and say, off you go, fly to your heart's content. 3 days later, it's still flying.
That's fantastic.
Their ultimate aim is that this could fly for months at a time without landing. Now, if it's flying for months, I can't see why it couldn't just keep flying. You might want to do some maintenance on the motors maybe, but it could fly for a long period of time.
You can say that the bar-tailed godwit can just stop showing off.
That's right. Now,
it
finally,
just can't compete with this thing that goes up for months.
That's right. So why would you want all this? Yes, surveillance is one part of it. Monitoring naval warships, monitoring pirates apparently, and drug smugglers.
Yeah, okay.
So mainly being used for maritime zones, including the Gulf Coast at this stage. But the other thing that I think you'd use it for would be communications. And we know there were some tests. I know Google and Facebook were trying to do some drones. They were using balloons, for example, or using powered drones to give communications to areas that was quite hard to get into and construct some type of towers. So mobile phone communications 13 kilometres away, that's quite easy. I mean, you can have a land-based mobile phone tower 13 kilometres away. So doing that up in the air is quite easy. We can do it. We know we have the technology to do it. So putting that up for things like communications, things like search and rescue, border patrol, climate data collection, a disaster. So you've got a disaster. How do you know what's happening in that particular area? Well, let's throw one of these drones up and have it sitting there to just continually surveil the area. What can we do?
For weeks, yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So a whole range of things. But I do love the fact that we're getting to the stage where we can actually put something in the air and keep it flying for that long. I actually get quite fascinated when I'm sitting on an A380 or back in the old days, the 747, and it flies, say, from Sydney to LA or Sydney to Dallas, Sydney to Dubai. Those flights, 13, 14, maybe I think 16, 17 hours, some 15, of those.
Something like that, yeah.
And I sometimes sit there and maybe I don't want to think about it for too long and I go, you know what, this seems quite amazing to me. We've got, 300,000 litres of fuel on board. That's a lot. And we're just going to stick this plane up in the air for 13 or 14 hours and it's burning that fuel at quite a rate.
It is, and you wonder sometimes, how well does it glide?
Yeah, that's right. Not very, I don't think. But that seems fascinating to me that we can put a plane up in the air for that long, fully fueled, and the engines are going. You can hear them going. They're burning that fuel at a rate to keep you flying along at reasonable speeds. So to put something up in the air that can fly for months is just a bit mind-blowing. Now, there's no people on board. It's obviously autonomous. It's just got a payload of up to 400 kilos of whatever equipment you might need there. But, gee, that's pretty cool.
It's very cool, isn't it? Blurring the lines between the virtual world and reality has been the big challenge for AI. Now, AI engines need that human element to grab the attention of the common user, of course. So Peterborough Council, that's in the UK, have decided to immortalise one of their best long-standing employees as an AI chatbot that dispenses advice in a manner just like its namesake. Matt, introduce the folks to Geraldine Jinx.
I do love this. There are some people that you know in an organisation that if you need to ask that hard question, go to Geraldine in this case.
They are beloved.
They are beloved and they know everything. And what Geraldine was finding was that she wasn't always able to do her normal work because everyone was asking her questions about whatever it was that she needed to be asked about. So eventually they came up with this concept of let's just ask Geraldine all the questions that people ask her once, record all of that, create a chatbot out of it, and then we can just have all of our staff not go to Geraldine, they can just go to Geraldine Chatbot. And it's
Poor
good
old
enough.
Geraldine, though. She's going to all of a sudden go from 100 kilometres an hour to 0. No one's going to ask her anything anymore.
That's right. No one talks to me anymore. Well, one of the things I love about it is that when people do chat to her, they don't realise always that they're not chatting to Geraldine. They send a message, a typed message, and an answer comes back, oh, thanks, that's really helpful, Geraldine, yeah. They don't realise that Geraldine didn't write that. Next thing you know, they see a photo of Geraldine on holidays and they go, gee, I'm impressed how committed you are, Geraldine. You only answered me 5 minutes ago and I see you're off on holidays on a ski trip.
Slighted.
Yeah, maybe. But I do like this, and maybe there's potential to retain some of that knowledge that every organisation has within some few people, that intellectual property contained within some people's
Geraldine's
heads.
become immortalised. She can be giving advice forever.
She can. And it might be a bit freaky when Geraldine retires and then Geraldine one day dies and they're still asking Geraldine. Maybe they need to rename it so it's not so obvious that it's Geraldine. Maybe Geraldine's granddaughter works at the council one day and she's asking her grandmother for advice even though she buried Granny 5 years ago. So I just do like the idea, though, that we do have very good knowledge and experience, humans I'm talking about, and we do have contextual knowledge. Just a simple question that might be a bit confusing, and how do I solve this problem? And suddenly we turn to someone who's had that same problem 5 times over the last 30 years and knows straight away what to do with that problem. So I don't know how difficult it was. There was obviously a large IT project and a fair bit of Geraldine's time involved in giving the answers, giving the Geraldine answers to a bunch of different questions. I think that'll be the challenge in this, coming up with the right questions to then say, Geraldine, here are all the different questions. But I imagine in anyone's job, there are so many nuances, so many contextual issues around something that isn't quite working right. So how do you build all that in? That's really, I suppose, what we're doing with a lot of our AI, with a lot of our generative AI, where they are trying to bring context into those questions, but just narrow it down to a subset of one person's knowledge. I think that's fascinating.
It is, isn't it? Absolutely. Yeah.
How many more are we going to see? How many more Geraldine chatbots?
Well, this is a great idea. I think it's going to pop up a lot.
I mean, in your game, in school teaching, there would definitely be school teachers that have got years of experience, which you'd love to say, how are we going to deal with these problems? Whether it be kids that sometimes can be a bit hard to deal with, or a learning environment, or whatever. There'd be that knowledge. When that person retires, you would know in your school that suddenly, wow, all that knowledge, that's, what are we going to do now? Can I still ring you? Like, it's just...
Well, we found it when the baby boomers all started retiring, didn't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so that was about 20 years ago that sort of flood, the floodgates opened there. And so I just kept thinking about all this wealth of knowledge that just disappeared because... there was a way that they did things and a way that they solved problems. And
I can't give you the exact stats on this. It's something that I remember reading many years ago where, say, 2 generations ago, a person worked an average of 1.2 occupations, not jobs, but careers. And now people staying their working life today are going to work something like 7 different occupations. Yeah. So you go back to those times when you worked 1.2 occupations, a lot of those people would work in the same job, not the same occupation, but the same job for 30 or 40 years, which I think young people today would say, well, that's terrible, that's boring, how could you possibly do that? But the experience they would gain over that time frame, and they became invaluable. I know in my businesses, I'm a bit of a fan of retaining that knowledge. I want to keep those staff for as long as you can because they, without trying, they build up that knowledge, that experience.
It just happens by nature.
That's right. And we had a funny one the other day, actually. There was a person in one of our shops that was having trouble making a phone call to a certain taxi company. I'll say that company. I'm not dobbing anyone in here, any individual company there, but she couldn't get through to the taxi company, and she thought there was something wrong with her phone. And so our staff went through and tested it, ring every other number, and then one of the staff remembered that if you dial in Australia 1831 before any number, it blocks your number. So they dialed 1831 on the taxi number, and the phone call went straight through. Then they'd worked out that this person had been a bit of a pest, and in the middle of the night kept ringing for the taxi over and over. So the taxi company had blocked her number. So her phone was working perfectly, but if she wanted to get a taxi, she had to ring from a different phone or maybe stop being such a pest, I think was the bottom line there.
There's another moral of the story there,
that's
folks.
One there. 1831 is not a number that most people would know of to ring at a number, and it was only that we had an experienced staff member there went, if we try this, and suddenly
contextual knowledge.
That's right, that little tidbit of knowledge could be applied in that case. Yeah, anyway, good on you, Geraldine. Best of luck in your retirement.
You've probably noticed that your Google searches these days result in an AI-generated overview. Rather than just matching our searches to some website text, we now get a summary from multiple sources. So Google is now launching a new search feature, building on the current version. It's already in the US and in India, and it's about to land in the UK. It's called AI Mode, and Matt is here to tell us how it's a step up.
It is actually Google trying to catch up. Google is a little bit concerned, I'm sure, They won't admit it publicly, but I'm absolutely guaranteed that the directors, the powers that be within Google, or Alphabet to be more accurate with their name, are worried about 260 is the magic number they're worried about. $260 billion is how much they generated in advertising revenue last year. That's basically from people paying. It is from people paying to be somewhere high up in the rankings of a Google search. So when you type in Google and a company appears at the top, they paid for that, and they generated $260 billion US last year. That's about 75% of their revenue. Now, the thing is that a couple of years ago, they had about 93% market share. And I'm amazed it's 93%. I would have thought 100% because what other search engine do you go to? Sure, maybe a few people use Bing now, but really you use Google.
Yeah, come on.
So when you start to see ChatGPT or other AI tools start to be referred to as search engines and people start going to those to do their searches, they're 92, 93% already. Some of the experts believe that's dropped down to 89% just from people using an AI tool to do a search rather than going to Google.
Yeah, okay.
So Google's got to respond. They can be Kodak and they can bury their head in the sand and say everyone will keep using Google search. So you correctly mentioned the Google overview, which is kind of the half-pregnant feature from Google. They're saying, here's Google search. Here are all the various sites you can go to. Here's a bit of a summary that kind of gives you what you want if you don't want to go to one of those individual sites. So I like going to ChatGPT because I don't want to muck around and look for all those individual links. I want someone to just give me the answer. What's the answer?
Yeah,
there's the answer. So Google has now got their AI mode. And there's a couple of interesting things with this. The first thing is it is trying to compete with ChatGPT without a doubt. They've introduced it, as you said, in the US, in India. They're about to introduce it in the UK. So that's fine, and there'll be an option there for you to use it, to choose to use it or not. So this is really them trying to compete and give you an option to say, I'll go and use that. Now, what no one can work out, Google, the experts, me thinking about it, is how they're going to generate revenue from this. Because when I search on something in Google and I see links come up, I know the number one link's paid to be there. But if I just get a natural language answer, so if I say something like, I want to find something to clean my carpet because I've spilled some coffee on it, do I have a way of influencing that answer to make sure that a carpet cleaning company that's paid me to advertise is the first carpet cleaning company that comes up, or whether just using the resource of the internet, it comes up with various options for you to clean your carpet without being directed to different products.
Yeah, and you get some conspiracy theorist that wants you to use, I don't know, sheep urine or something like that.
That's right.
Yeah,
Quite possibly that'll be the answer. But if I'm wanting my AI tool to give me a legitimate answer, well, I don't want influencers I don't want advertisers influencing the answer that I get. I want to know the correct answer. Yeah. And I feel like that when I use ChatGPT. There's no advertisers influencing the answer, I hope. But with Google, I know somewhere in their business model is going to be you'll pay, or an advertiser will pay, to show up higher in the search results. So it's a really interesting time that we're going to, I think, in the search engine space at the moment, based on the different ways of searching. And so it really is a changing of the guard potentially. Google's coming to the party a bit late. ChatGPT's been there for a little while. So they're trying to do this. So they're trying. And I suppose that's the thing. They recognise it's a problem. They recognise their business model is about to collapse. What do we do about it?
They've seen the early signs, haven't they? They've had their Kodak moment.
Yeah. Well, hopefully they have. Because what we want to see as consumers is competition. We want to see Google come up with something that's better. The Gemini's much better than ChatGPT. Oh, hold on, now ChatGPT's better. Oh, now something else is better. Yeah. We want to see that competition, but we also understand that Google spends a lot of money receives a lot of money on their advertising. So they've got that money to spend on doing research, on developing different solutions for a whole range of different problems.
Sounds like they've got to come up with a completely different business model.
Well, maybe, and maybe that's part of it. Maybe it's just you go to Google's AI tool, and on the side there are advertisers there, which isn't as effective as when you search for carpet stain and you get carpet cleaners. That's a fairly directed sort of process you go through. Fascinating space. It's not rolled out in Australia yet, but give it time. Obviously, I don't think it'll take too long because they need to get the testing done. They need to work out the runs on the board. But then again, they want to protect their advertisers. They want people to keep going to those links in their advertising.
It's a funny game. Before 2016, I didn't know what gaslighting was, and then the political climate changed forever, and gaslighting was the new black, so to speak. So if you know someone whose memory for details of what was said in conversations gone by is a bit, shall we say, rubbery, then you may like to consider getting a B Pioneer bracelet. That's B-double-E Pioneer bracelet. It records and transcribes everything in the said conversation that you want to argue about. So gaslighters beware, Matt.
Well, I'm a bit the same as you. I heard this term gaslighting being thrown around. It actually comes from a movie back from the 1930s or 40s.
Oh, really?
Yeah, where the husband was trying to make the wife think she was crazy, and part of it, I think, was turning the gas lights down in the house, and the wife would be saying, "Oh, it's a bit dark in here." And you go, "Seems fine to me. Everything's fine." So, hence the term gaslighting. Now, that might be slightly wrong, but it was something like that in the movie. Obviously, gaslighting, and again, I see these terms thrown around social media. "Oh, stop gaslighting me." I'm going, the person just pointed out that was wrong. How is that gaslighting? So I think some people have taken it too far.
Yeah.
If you tell me I'm wrong, it's gaslighting immediately, rather than trying to make you think you're crazy, which is the real gaslighting, if you like. But having every conversation that you've ever had to refer back to in a searchable, contextual storage would be pretty handy for someone that says, "You told me that." "No, I never said that. Let's just have a look exactly what I said." Now,
it'll solve those family disputes around the Christmas table, won't it, when you're recalling those childhood conversations or that funny thing that happened in your childhood.
Yeah.
It happens in all families.
That's right.
Where people remember details differently. And I thought I said that, but you reckon you said that, and da-da-da-da, yeah.
Forever I've told my kids, when you're overtaking, when we're teaching them to drive, when you're overtaking, don't follow a car out that's overtaking in front of you. Do it independently, because my big brother, had a motorbike accident and broke his arm following a car out. And I've told that story for, I think, decades. And I spoke to my brother recently and I said, "Oh, you know when you broke your arm in that motorbike accident?" "Yeah. And you followed a car out?" No, I was just a wet road and I slid off going around a corner." No, I've told my kids. Absolutely wrong. I don't know where I got it from, but absolutely wrong.
Let's go back to the transcript.
That's right. So I don't know why Amazon is doing this. So they've acquired B-double-E, as you said. They've acquired the company called B, which is basically a device, or a company that makes a device that is a bracelet that sits on your wrist, and every conversation you have, you and I chatting now at the pub, mumbling away to ourselves, everything we say is recorded for transcription purposes. The recording is thrown away. So they don't keep the recording, which might be better, because then you've actually got the recording, because, hold on, maybe the transcription wasn't quite right. So then you can take actions on that. "Hey, James, let's catch up for lunch next Tuesday. In my diary, lunch with James on Tuesday." Fantastic. So that sounds like it's great. "Oh, now I've got to get that report done and hand it in to my boss by Thursday at 10 o'clock. Oh, in my calendar is an appointment, Thursday at 10 o'clock, get that report done." So, gee, that sounds like it's making my life more efficient. I don't know if people would talk to me quite the same, though.
Yeah, I know.
If they knew.
Those people would say, "My word is my bond." And then...
So, well, actually.
Well, yeah.
What about...
verbal contracts, huh?
What about, "Oh, James, you played terribly on the weekend." Yeah. Fine to have that conversation with you, but talking to someone else, "Oh, what about James? Didn't he play a shock on the weekend?" I'm not sure I want to have that conversation if it's completely recorded in the transcription.
Everyone's guarded about everything that they say all the time.
It would have to change the way you spoke.
We communicate.
Oh,
yeah.
absolutely right. So what I'm intrigued about, though, is Amazon has said for a long time that its Alexa devices do not record everything happening 24 hours a day, which some people think they do. I don't know. I have no absolute definite proof one way or the other. Amazon says they don't, but some people have got proof, in inverted commas, that they do. With this, they're saying, no, this is recording 24/7, so forget about your conspiracy theories. Definitely it's recording everything you do, and there's a complete transcription of it. So why do they want this company? What's their end game? Do they just like the look of this and think it'd be cool to own this company? Do they like the fact that they've got a company that's named a letter and a word all together with B and B-double-E? I'm not sure. But
I've been a secretary of a couple of organisations, and there you are furiously trying to write out minutes. I would buy one of these bracelets in a heartbeat. Yeah?
Well, maybe that's a great use for it, but you almost need to find some way of signalling. And remember, we've talked before about Google Glasses, and there's a bit of a backlash against those because people were recording video and recording conversations that were happening, and then it came to the stage now with the latest version of various glasses that got a little light on them to basically show when something's being recorded. So how do you show with a bracelet that you're definitely being recorded? It'd be very easy for that bracelet to be under my sleeve and not saying anything to anyone, and next thing you know, all of that conversation is not just recorded, but there's a transcription that I can search in. What did James say on this date about me? So all of that information there. It's a scary world. I just don't know that people are going to love the advantages enough to be explained to people. I'm recording this all the time, and I suppose the other part of this is in different jurisdictions there are different laws. In some places, I only need one person's permission to record a conversation, which is me.
Yeah.
In other places, I need two people's permission. So every conversation, hi James, how are you going? This conversation
way,
is being recorded
flash
for
your
quality purposes. Yeah, so it's an interesting world. I almost want the idea of it being woken up, a bit like Alexa device, wake up, whatever the command might be.
Yeah.
I almost want it to go, okay, B bracelet, record this, because I'm about to say about a meeting or a report or some information. Sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night with a great idea and I grab my phone and type in a message to my phone, maybe waking up, why don't we do this report for tomorrow? And you know you never remember those great ideas in the morning. So I always
Jerry Maguire moments.
Yeah, that's right. I always like to put them on my phone, but it'd be much easier just to lift up my wrist and talk into my wrist, my bracelet, and then have that recorded. But you kind of want some sort of wake-up moment, I think, not just recording 24/7. That feels a bit creepy.
Worrisome. For those of you with compost bins bursting at the seams, or maybe you're an inner city slicker with a distinct absence of compost bin and you just feel like those food scraps have to do better than just creating landfill, then get a load of this, folks. You can now turn food waste into kitchenware courtesy of 3D printing. Matt, bowls made out of banana peels? Why the hell not?
Why not? Why not? So the scary part is 66 million tonnes of food waste is generated in the US each year. Even here in Australia.
66 million tonnes.
That's right, 7.6 million tonnes of food waste. Now, my mum used to say, finish that off because you're 1,000 starving in Ethiopia. No offence to anyone in Ethiopia, but I never could work out how me finishing that plate.
Can you send that lamb's fry to...
That's right. Your soup, which isn't the greatest, mum, can you
Brussels
send
sprouts
that?
can go to Ethiopia.
That's right, they can have them all. So I never could work it out, but I suppose it was part of that finish all your plate. So obviously not everyone had my mother telling them to finish off their food. Of all those 66 million tonnes, or 7.6 in Australia, 60% of that ends up in landfill. So some people do have some sort of compost bin, or they have chooks in the backyard, whatever it might be. But a lot of it, 60% of it, ends up in landfill, which is not great. Now, if you want to get scarier than that, all the carbon dioxide that's generated from all of that process is the equivalent in the US of about 42 coal-fired power plants. Because we know those landfills generate methane, and methane we know is much worse than carbon dioxide. So it's not a great situation. So MIT researchers have come up with the foodres.ai printer, which basically takes things like banana peels, eggshells, coffee grounds, flower stems. I obviously don't buy my wife enough flowers because I don't have any flower stems around the house. But I can put all of those into this machine, and I can say, I'd like some coasters or some cups, some bowls, some glasses, some utensils maybe, and I want you to make them out of those food scraps, which sounds fantastic. I just don't know how many plates I'm going to need in my house.
Yeah.
Because
and I'm also wondering how biodegradable they are then.
Well, presumably, yes, they are, but what do they happen then? Do you just throw it in the garden when you're finished with it, use it for another couple of weeks and then throw it out, or do you use it for years? I don't know the longevity of all of these, but basically it takes all of the food waste and munches it down into some sort of bioplastic paste, and you've got some natural additives that are added in there as well, and then that's basically used to do 3D printing of these various devices. There's various recipes, as I said, but you've also got the ability to create your own. If you don't want one of those various devices, you can create your own as well. Wow. So it sounds like a pretty good concept. Now, you've got some other things that are happening on the back of this. I love how people are so creative in what you can do. You've now got a restaurant in London, a 3D printed restaurant in London, where the utensils, the plates, everything you use in that restaurant is 3D printed. You can see it 3D printed there on site, including the food. And we've talked about 3D printed meat. We've talked about 3D printed foods. So they say, come into our restaurant, our 3D printed restaurant.
You can watch your dinner being 3D printed.
And everything you use in that restaurant is 3D printed. I'm not sure about the liquids that come out. Maybe they use one of the mixers we've talked about before where it just mixes drinks on the fly.
This is amazing.
Yeah, it is amazing. Absolutely right. So we know Columbia University have done things like cheesecakes with 3D printers. So a whole range of things are happening with 3D printing around food and utensils. So I love the idea. I don't know. I don't replace my plates and my knives and forks that often. So I just don't know how many extra ones I need of that.
Yeah, I wonder, how much of this marketing ploy is going to take some really heavy-duty advertising for turning your banana peels and eggshells into your cutlery.
What's something I need more of? I think that's the thing. Something that I need more of that I use up on an ongoing basis.
Perhaps it's just an effort to not have to do washing up, so you can throw out your plates and stuff like that in the end.
Well,
and it does end up in landfill.
Tyres. I go through tyres on my push bike. Maybe you could make tyres out of that. Yeah, that'll do me.
Yeah,
So.
there you go. Now, still on 3D printing here, concrete printing buildings is about to become old hat, though it still feels pretty new to me. Of course, concrete is a key contributor of CO2 in the atmosphere, so we need perhaps a greener option, folks, for building. So in Japan, they are now 3D printing houses out of dirt, lime and natural fibres. Sounds like a 21st century mud hut, Matt.
It does, doesn't it? And I've seen buildings built with compressed mud, so they build a frame and then they put mud in there and they literally jam that mud down to make it hard packed or compressed.
And mud's a good building material too.
Yeah, a bit of clay in there and so maybe a bit of lime as well. And so you get something that's pretty reasonable. But I haven't seen it done with 3D printing. And with cement, the secret sauce.
So the nerds got hold of mud hut building.
That's right.
And they went, I don't want that's too messy. Can we just load it into a hopper?
That's right. I don't want to get there and stamp it up and down with my feet and get my toes all squelching through it. So the secret sauce with cement printing, 3D printing with cement, is to get that mixture at the right level of fluidity, maybe, that it will flow out through a nozzle, but it's hard enough that it stands up when it prints. And I've watched 3D printers in the flesh, and you're watching it come out and you go, that looks fairly liquid, but it does stand up by itself. So getting that right is the real challenge. But you've got cement in there, and we know it sets hard. But you're right, cement is not great from a CO2 perspective. It's also hard to get to places. There are places across the world where it's pretty hard to get to and they don't have a lot of cement there. But they do have earth, they do have lime, they do have maybe some natural fibres there. Wow. Imagine building a gantry, a 3D printing gantry, that could use the stuff around you to build something a bit more stable than just a mud hut. And that's exactly what they're doing. So this is a collaboration between LibWork out of Japan and WASP, stands for World's Advanced Saving Project. Again, it's serious, it's got an acronym. Then WASP in Italy. So this is a collaboration between Japan and Italy. And I kind of understand half of that. In Japan, a lot of the houses are very flimsy. They're just very thin timber. Paper walls. And I went along, when I was in Japan recently, I went along and had an inspection of a house. There was a gentleman there who built houses. He did some work in Australia and was a major builder in Japan. And he showed me some of his houses, some of his demonstration houses, some of his display homes. And they were magnificent in their structure, but I reckon I could walk through any external or internal wall in that place. It doesn't seem to be a big thing for security.
Isn't there a Simpsons cartoon with just walking through the walls and stuff?
That's exactly
hilarious,
it.
Right.
So in Italy, I get it, because you do feel like you see more buildings made of some type of solid structure, dirt, concrete, etc. You've got that sort of cement look more in Italy, but not so much in Japan. So I thought it was an interesting collaboration, and this first one they've built, as you said correctly, is in Japan, 100 square metre home, and they've built it all out of earth, lime and natural fibres. The first thing I thought of is, if it's not compressed dirt, like I've seen in those compressed dirt houses, how's it going to go weathering on the outside? But they do put a protective glazing over it to basically protect it from the elements. But apart from that, you've got really good insulation properties. You've got really good sound properties. So it's going to be quite a reasonably impressive house. And we know 3D printing is fantastic for flexibility. You can build whatever shape you want. You can build a whole range of fancy designs. Architects can take their hats off or take their blinkers off, if you like, and look at all the different designs that are available out there and draw whatever their heart feels like drawing, and then someone can go along and 3D print it. So it's not ready at the moment to start building. They're going to start taking pre-orders later on this year and then have people build some of these homes. So I think, first of all, they build them in suburban areas, but I see no reason why you couldn't move this gantry to some remote locations, use whatever's there and start building 3D homes.
What an amazing opportunity.
Yeah, fascinating.
There was an uproar at the 2025 International Mathematical Olympiad. Lining up alongside the brightest maths students on the planet were some AI imposters muscling in on the action. With all the details on the controversy, Matt, talk us through how it unfolded.
Oh, it could be controversy.
Olympiad.
It could be.
Controversy.
Yeah,
I tie myself in knots every time
could be
I say that
controversial.
word.
So the International Maths Olympiad, the IMO, has been going for a number of years now. And I know we've talked about it before because you get a gold medal, but it's not a gold medal like the Olympics. The winner doesn't necessarily get a gold medal. Anyone that achieves a certain standard gets a gold medal. So they had 630 contestants in the competition this year. Of those, 72 students earn gold medals. So you get the idea that you can get a certain number of points, and it's a quite interesting concept. They give you 6 questions. That's it. 2 days. 6 questions, 2 days. I can do that. Obviously, they're fairly complex questions.
Yeah.
You get about 4.5 hours each day to solve them. Presumably you get 3 questions one day, 3 questions the next day. 4.5 hours to solve those questions. And each question is worth a maximum of 7 points. If you solve it completely, obviously 7 points, and you get marks for working towards the solution.
Imagine needing a nap after finishing one.
That's right. So it'd actually be interesting to have a look at the sort of questions you're talking about. But question 6, they tend to go up in hardness as you go through, give them a bit of confidence on question 1. Oh, I can do that one. That's easy. And then question 6, oh my gosh, my life isn't worth living anymore because I can't solve this maths problem. But question 6 was the one that only a few students got. So to give you an idea, out of the 630 contestants, 569 scored a big fat 0 on problem 6. So it's a tough question. AI also failed to solve problem 6, so that makes us all feel a bit better about ourselves.
Yeah, or was it unsolvable?
No, some students did get it.
Right, okay.
Let's see, 6 students got a full solution to question 6. Now, that doesn't mean they scored a perfect 42 points. Maybe some of them didn't go so well on the other questions, but it really sunk their teeth into question 6 and spent more time on that one.
Yeah, right.
So, interesting concept overall, but what I like about it is kids were still beating AI this year. And that's the big thing here. Even though some of the AI models did well enough to win a gold medal, so that's fine, they scored enough points to win a gold medal, like the 72 students who earned gold medals, they didn't beat all the students. So some students actually beat the AI. But many people believe that this is probably the last year of the IMO where AI won't be the winner, which is good and bad because these problems are complex. These problems take the very best and brightest students that we've got a couple of days to solve. But even the advance that's been made last year, for example, only in 1 year, some of these problems that were given to the best AI of the day took several days to solve the problem, whereas now they were working under the same constraints of time as the students were. So they were solving some of these problems within the 4.5 hour time limit that the students had as well.
Right.
So bottom line is AI is getting better, as if we needed to tell anyone that. AI is getting better.
Yeah, come on.
That's right.
If you thought we were getting the upper hand at any stage there, you probably need to reevaluate.
Yeah, that's right. So it's getting better. It's one of the things that I think it's a good little testing ground for AI developers to say, well, it's all well and good with him. We're going, okay, next year's IMO, let's target that and see if we can actually beat those students, beat humans.
I wonder if there's a possibility to just turn AI down just a fraction, like we used to do with computer chess. Any nerds out there like me who used to play computer chess a bit, I actually got to be able to beat on level 4, but never got anywhere near level 10. I don't think I had the patience to get up to that high. But anyway, you beat it at a level and you go, oh, yeah, okay, I'm going to try the next level, and it gets a bit harder, of course. Can we turn AI up and down?
Just down. No up. Just turn it down. We don't want 11 from AI. We want to turn it down, maybe.
Oh,
well, that might be an option. We might need to be able to do that at some stage, but we have to ask AI's permission to do that.
Yes, we will have to. And that is that for another week, ladies and gentlemen. It's time for you all to get back to your business. Chop, chop now. Back to it. Thanks for another cracking tech talk, Matt.
No problems. I do have to go and touch up my ping pong skills. I used to play ping pong a bit as a kid. Haven't played a lot lately, but if I have to play against a robot at some stage, my kids have all left home. They're not going to play against me anymore, so I need to find someone to play against me. Maybe
I'm off to do some nude sunbathing. I'm going to wave to the skies and smile and all that sort of stuff. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Tech Talk with Matthew Dickerson. It's the only podcast made with all natural ingredients, 95% sugar-free and 100% good for you, both your brain and your soul. So grab a bowlful and share it around. I'm your host, James Eddy, wishing you a productive and profitable week ahead, and we hope to catch you again in a week's time for another brand new episode. Don't forget to hit the like button on your provider's site and even subscribe. Heck, maybe even invite some friends along for next time perhaps. In the meantime, take care and we'll see you when we see you.